If you have ever brought home a beautiful plant on a Saturday morning, set it in a bed that finally had its empty spot filled, and 3 summers later, watch that same plant eat the bed, cross the fence, or lift your patio stones, these 8 names are why. 40 years running a backyard trial garden, I have dug every one of these back out of the ground. 3 cost over $1,000 apiece to professionally excavate. 2 ate every nearby perennial in the bed within 4 summers. And number 1 left a chemical burn on my forearm that took 6 weeks to heal and still keeps me up some nights when I think how easily it could have been my granddaughter's face. 8 flowers I ripped out, each one with a better plant I grow in its place. Stay with me. Number 8, Bishop's Weed, sold under the cultivar name Aegopodium podagraria variegatum, sometimes labeled as snow on the mountain at the garden center to make it sound more decorative. The variegated form is genuinely pretty. White and green leaves the size of a $50, a soft, tidy mound about a foot tall, perfect-looking ground cover for the shady spot under a tree where you have been losing the battle with grass for years. That is exactly why I planted it in 2005. On the north side of a maple in dry shade, nothing else would establish there. First summer, the patch filled in beautifully, soft green and white carpet, exactly where I wanted it. By the end of year 2, it had crossed the bedline in 3 directions. By year 4, it was coming up in the lawn 15 feet from the original planting, in the perennial border on the other side of the maple, and along the foundation of the house. The plant spreads through underground rhizomes that travel deep and break easily. Every fragment becomes a new plant, and the rhizomes have the unpleasant habit of weaving through the root systems of every nearby plant they encounter. The hostas I had planted next to it were strangled within 3 seasons. Removal is among the worst jobs in American gardening. You cannot till the bed because tilling chops the rhizomes into hundreds of new plants. You cannot spray it because the dense canopy of leaves protects most of the rhizome layer underneath. The technique that actually works is cardboard plus 6 inches of mulch held in place for 2 full growing seasons, and even then you will be pulling stragglers for years afterward. USDA zones 3 through 9, what I plant instead now, Heuchera Pallas purple or caramel, same shade-tolerant low-mounded foliage habit, far more interesting leaf color, a tight, non-spreading clump that stays exactly where the division was set. Hardy zones 4 through 9, I have a row of 7 Pallas purple in the same spot the goutweed used to occupy, going on 6 years without a single plant crossing the bedline. Number 7, the orange daylily. You have seen this one your entire life without ever planting it. Highway ditches in Pennsylvania, old fence lines in West Virginia, abandoned farmhouse foundations in Tennessee, whole banks of bright orange trumpet flowers, completely unbothered by heat, drought, deer, or decades of neglect. That resilience is not a feature when you put the plant in your own garden. That is the warning written on every roadside ditch in America. I planted a small handful in the front strip along my mailbox because I wanted the relaxed, naturalized look without doing any work. I got the look. The work came later. By year 4, what started as 5 plants had become a single thick mass, nearly 4 feet across. It had eaten the space I had reserved for 2 David Austin roses. The tuberous roots underneath were the size of small potatoes, woven together so densely they had pushed up the edge stones of the bed. Removal took a mattock, not a trowel, a mattock, a full Saturday of digging, and 3 days when I could not raise my arms above my shoulders. Any small piece of root I missed regrew the following spring. I was still pulling stragglers out of the bed 2 years later. Professional removal of an established orange daylily patch runs $300 to $800 across most of the country. That is the real cost of a $4 nursery plant. USDA zones 3 through 9. It is most aggressive in zones 5 through 8. What I plant instead now. Stelladoro daylily, compact, repeat blooming yellow, stays in a tight clump for 15 years without spreading. Or if you want a meaningful color shift away from the daylily look entirely, Coreopsis verticillata Zagreb delivers the same low-care drought tolerance with bright yellow ferny foliage and stays exactly where you set the divisions. Both are hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9. Both have been in my front strip for 8 years without a single excavation. Quick pause. If the Matic weekend on the orange daylily made you wince, tap the like button right now. Not for me. Your one tap puts this in front of another gardener about to bring an orange daylily home this Saturday. Now to number 6, ribbon grass. The variegated white and green striped form is genuinely beautiful. The blades move in the slightest breeze. The tag at the nursery said it was perfect for filling tough spots where nothing else thrived. I planted a row along the back fence in 2014. The first season was lush, full, the kind of movement you pay good money to install on a contracted landscape job. Year 2, the new shoots were appearing 2 feet beyond the original bed edge. Year 3, the ribbon grass had crossed under the patio. The patio had been laid in 2011 on a 4-inch concrete pad with proper drainage gravel underneath, and the ribbon grass rhizomes had still found a way through, lifting 2 of the patio stones a clean 1/2 inch off level. I had to pull both stones, dig out the rhizome layer underneath, and reset the bed in fresh sand. That repair cost me a full Saturday and the cost of a bag of polymeric sand. The original ribbon grass cost me $18 at the nursery. Year 4, it was coming up in the vegetable bed 20 feet from the original planting and had emerged in the perennial border on the opposite side of the lawn entirely. I dug the bed out twice in 2017 and was still finding stragglers in 2020. Ribbon grass spreads through underground rhizomes that travel laterally several feet per season. They do not stop at bed edges, patio pads, or the $400 you spent on a hardscape install. United States Department of Agriculture zones 4 through 9. The warmer the climate, the faster the spread. What I plant instead now, little blue stem, Schizochorium scoparium, called standing ovation, native prairie grass, tight upright clump that stays exactly where it is planted, blue-green summer color that turns coppery red at first frost and holds the color through January, zones 3 through 9. I have a row of 7 plants along the back fence going on 9 years without crossing a single inch beyond the planting hole. Number 5, Gooseneck loosestrife. The Latin name is Lysimachia clethroides, and there is nothing in that label that warns you what the plant is going to do to your border. The blooms are extraordinary. Late June through August, the plant throws long, arching white flower spikes that bend at the tip exactly like the curve of a goose's neck. 20 or 30 curved spikes on a single plant in peak bloom, all of them arching the same direction. The honeybees and small native pollinators work it from sunrise. It is a striking plant. I bought 3 nursery pots in 1996 at a country plant sale and set them along the back edge of a sunny perennial border. The first 2 summers were exactly as expected. 3 handsome clumps, plenty of bloom, garden visitors stopping to ask what they were. By year 3, the original 3 clumps had become 11. By year 5, I had gooseneck loosestrife 12 feet from the original planting, coming up in the middle of a peony I had planted long before the loosestrife went in. Gooseneck loosestrife spreads through aggressive underground rhizomes that run quickly and run deep. The runners do not pause at bed lines. They thread through the root crowns of established perennials, and every fragment you leave behind during removal regrows the following spring. I gave up on the original border, dug out everything I wanted to save, smothered the bed with cardboard and a foot of bark mulch, and waited 2 full seasons before replanting. USDA zones 3 through 9. What I plant instead now, Lietra spicata, blazing star, or gay feather. Tall purple flower spikes from July through August, exactly the height and presence the leucostrife gave me. It is native to the central United States. Pollinators love it the same way, and the corms stay in a tight, non-spreading clump. Hardy zones 3 through 8, 9 years in the same border without moving a single inch. While you are here, drop your state and your USDA zone in the comments. The pattern across the country, which of these 8 run worst in which regions, is data I cannot get any other way. The comments shape the next regret video. Now to number 4, Periwinkle, Vinca minor. Periwinkle is sold at every garden center in America as the answer for shady slopes. Dense evergreen ground cover, pretty purple-blue flowers in early spring, fills in quickly, suppresses weeds. The tag reads like a solution to every problem at once. I planted it on the north-facing slope behind my tool shed where grass refused to grow, and erosion had cut a small channel after every heavy rain. First year exactly as advertised. The slope was covered. The erosion stopped. The flowers appeared on schedule in April. Then the periwinkle did not stop at the bottom of the slope. By year 3, it had crossed under the cedar fence into the neighboring lawn. It had climbed into a bed where I had 3 young azaleas establishing. It had smothered a small clump of native trillium I had carried back from my mother's farm in 1992 and planted in a shady corner I thought was protected. Periwinkle does not coexist with other plants. It forms a dense mat that smothers everything underneath. The trillium I lost was older than my daughter. Removal takes hours of handwork for even a small patch. The roots weave together into a thick fabric you have to peel back like carpet, and any piece left behind regrows from a node within weeks. USDA zones 4 through 9, most aggressive in zones 6 through 8, where winters do not knock it back. What I plant instead now: creeping phlox, Phlox subulata, for sunny slopes. It covers ground in dense pink lavender or white spring bloom and stays in the patch where you set it. For shadier slopes, barren strawberry, Waldsteinia ternata with bright yellow spring bloom, glossy semi-evergreen foliage, and a well-behaved spread. Both are hardy in zones 4 through 9. Both have held the slope behind my shed without crossing the fence line for 6 years. Number 3, Lily of the Valley. This one breaks my heart a little to put on the list because Lily of the Valley is genuinely beautiful. The tiny white bell-shaped flowers and that sweet scent in late spring make it the plant that shows up in wedding bouquets and prayer books pressed between the pages. In your garden, it is a slow takeover. I planted a small patch in 1988 in a shady corner under an old oak in the backyard. For 2 years, it stayed small and quiet. By year 5, it had moved 6 feet from the original planting and was coming up through the root system of a hosta I had planted in 1984. Lily of the Valley spreads through underground pips, short rhizomes with a growing tip at one end and roots at the other. Those pips form dense mats just below the soil surface, and every tiny piece left in the ground after digging regrows into a new plant. Removal is tedious, slow work that has to be done with a hand trowel and a sieve, not a shovel. The second issue, and I want to flag this honestly, all parts of Lily of the Valley are toxic if eaten. The leaves, the flowers, the red berries that follow the blooms in late summer. If you have grandchildren or pets in the yard, that is a real consideration, not a small one. USDA zones 3 through 8. Most of the northern half of the United States. What I plant instead now: sweet woodruff, Galium odoratum, same delicate white flower clouds in late spring, same sweet hay-like scent when crushed, completely non-toxic, and a well-behaved spreader in shade. It forms a soft ground cover under deciduous trees and stays in the patch. Hardy in zones 4 through 8. The patch I planted in 2001 is now a beautiful 5-foot oval that has not crossed a single bedline. Quick word before number 2, there is more practical perennial garden planning than fits in any one video. I gathered 40 years of it into a book at henrysgardensecrets.com. The book is the long version. I will not bring it up again. Now, to number 2, Plume Poppy. This one is on the list because the catalog photograph absolutely sold me. Plume Poppy produces enormous heart-shaped blue-gray leaves and tall, airy panicles of small, cream-colored flowers held 7 or 8 feet above the ground in midsummer. The catalog showed it as the dramatic back-of-border statement plant of an English country garden border. Architectural, distinctive, completely unlike anything else on the planting plan. I ordered 2 plants by mail in 1999 and set them along the back of a deep, sunny border. By the end of the second summer, each plant was the size of a small shrub, 5 feet wide, 7 feet tall, blooming exactly as advertised. In year 3, the original 2 had become a thicket of 16. Plume Poppy spreads through aggressive underground rhizomes that travel deep, then send up new shoots every 2 or 3 feet in every direction. The runners do not stop at bed edges. Within 5 years, the Plume Poppy had crossed into the lawn, into the next bed over, and had begun pushing up new shoots in the gravel path on the opposite side of the bed entirely. The original border was unrecognizable. The other thing nobody told me is the sap. Cut a Plume Poppy stem, and the sap that bleeds out is the color of weak coffee and stains everything it contacts: clothing, garden tools, hands, the wooden handle of a spade. It washes out of skin with stubborn scrubbing. It does not wash out of cotton. USDA zones 4 through 9. What I plant instead now: Joe Pye weed, Little Joe, Eutrochium dubium. Same back-of-border height and architectural presence, about 4 feet tall, dusty pink flowers in flat-top clusters in midsummer, native to the eastern United States. Monarch butterflies and native bees work it constantly. Tight clumping habit, no rhizomes, hardy in zones 4 through 8. Same dramatic back-of-border effect without the 7-foot takeover. If anything in this video has saved you from a future Saturday of digging, hit subscribe right now. Heritage Gardening from 40 years of notebooks every Wednesday. Stay with me through number 1 because what comes next is not just a plant I regret. It is the plant that genuinely scared me. Number 1. Rue, Ruta graveolens, the one I teased at the start. I planted rue in a sunny herb bed the first June I moved into this property. Blue-gray foliage, small yellow midsummer flowers, the architectural Mediterranean look that goes back to medieval monastery gardens. One afternoon that same June, I was weeding around it. Bare forearms, short sleeves. I brushed against the foliage, reaching for a weed, came inside 20 minutes later, did not think about it again. By evening, my left forearm had a band of red blisters along the inside where the rue had touched the skin. Rue contains compounds called furanocoumarins. When the compounds contact skin and the skin then meets sunlight, the reaction is a chemical burn, phytophotodermatitis. Mine took 6 weeks to heal. The brown discoloration stayed almost 2 years. Poison control centers document these burns every gardening season. Children are most at risk because they brush against foliage while playing. I dug every rue plant out the same week. I have not planted it since. USDA zones 4 through 9. What I plant instead now: Russian sage, Perovskia atriplycifolia. Same silvery blue-gray cottage garden foliage, fragrant when crushed, loved by bees, completely safe to brush against bare-armed. Zones 4 through 9. The herb bed against the south wall is Russian sage now, and I weed it without thinking. 8 flowers from 40 years of honest notebooks, each one with the plant I grow in its place now. Most of these started the same way. I walked into a nursery, read a tag that told me what I wanted to hear, and brought a plant home without asking 3 questions. What does this plant actually do 5 years from now? What would it cost to dig back out? And is it safe for the people and grandchildren who use my yard? Ask those 3 before anything else goes in the ground.